Welcome in, everybody, to another deep dive. Today we're diving into a book all about communication and how to make change that really lasts.
That's right.
It's called Say What They Can't Unhear by Tamsen Webster.
Really good book.
Have you ever noticed how some ideas just seem to stick with people
Oh, for sure.
while others completely disappear?
Happens all the time.
Well, that's exactly what we're going to unlock today.
All right.
The secrets to making your message so memorable
Love it.
that people can't help but listen and be moved to make a change.
All right, so how do we do it?
Well, Webster argues that change isn't really about forcing people to do something.
Oh, interesting.
It's about understanding how they react to changes around them.
Okay, I like that.
So think about grabbing a sweater when it starts to get cold outside.
Sure.
That's just a natural response
Makes
to a
sense.
change in your environment.
It is.
Now think about Semmelweis and Nightingale.
The hand-washing pioneers.
They both advocated for the same thing,
Right.
but one of them was totally rejected. And the other one sparked a revolution.
Why is that?
What made the difference?
Well, Semmelweis, he kind of went head-on and confronted everyone.
Oh,
And that just created a lot of defensiveness.
I can see that happening.
Right. But Nightingale, she framed it as a way to elevate patient care.
Much better approach.
Yeah, which was already aligned with their values.
That makes so much sense.
So the big takeaway here is how you communicate
Equally?
can either set you up for success or for pushback.
So it's not just the idea itself, it's all about the packaging.
You got it.
It really makes you think about those impulse purchases you make sometimes.
Oh, tell me about it.
Webster actually says that 60% of purchases at IKEA are unplanned.
Wow, that's a lot.
Isn't that fascinating?
Absolutely. Every decision we make
Even the ones that seem kind of spontaneous?
stems from a story that our brain is constructing.
Oh, interesting.
We may not always realize it,
Okay.
but there's always a logical argument behind our actions.
So even something like buying a vase at IKEA, it's not just about the vase itself.
Right.
It's about that little story we're telling ourselves. Like, flowers make my home look nicer.
Sure.
This is a vase for flowers.
Exactly.
Therefore, I need to buy this vase.
The takeaway here is to persuade someone.
Oh.
You've got to come up with an argument
Okay.
that makes more sense to them than the story they're already telling themselves.
So how do we do that? How do we understand those internal stories that people are telling themselves?
Well, we don't need to read minds or anything like that.
Okay, good, because I don't have that ability.
It's more about understanding their primals.
They're primals.
Webster's word for those deep-seated beliefs that shape how they see the world.
Oh.
Imagine trying to pitch carbon capture technology to someone
Okay,
who doesn't believe in climate change.
right. You're speaking completely different languages at that point.
Exactly. It's a non-starter.
So are you saying we should try and change those core beliefs?
Not really. That's usually not very effective.
That-
And it can even be counterproductive.
So what do we do instead?
You need to find shared primals
Shared primals.
and build your argument upon that common ground.
I see.
So maybe that same investor
Oh,
really values economic growth.
right.
You could frame carbon capture as a way to create jobs.
I like that.
And suddenly you're speaking the same language.
You're connecting.
Exactly.
You're building a bridge.
That's the key.
Which leads us to something else that's super important to everyone.
What's that?
Identity.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Webster really emphasizes that.
What does she say?
She says, identity is the greatest influencer.
That's a powerful statement.
We all have this deep desire to be seen as smart,
Capable.
good,
For sure.
and it drives our decisions.
Much more than we realize.
Way more.
So if you directly criticize someone's viewpoint,
You're basically attacking their identity.
and that just leads to defensiveness,
Exactly.
they're going to shut down.
Exactly.
So what do you do instead?
Instead of attacking their viewpoint, you frame your argument as a way to enhance their existing strengths.
Even if you don't necessarily agree with their approach.
Exactly. I like that. So, for example,
Okay.
you've got a marketing team that's resistant to new digital strategies.
Right.
Instead of dismissing their traditional skills,
Okay.
you position the new approach as a way to complement their expertise.
That's good.
Make them feel valued,
Yes.
not threatened.
That reminds me of that scene in the book with the community meeting about school funding.
Oh, yeah. That got intense.
It turned into a total battle.
It did, which illustrates perfectly
Mhm.
how attacking people's deeply held beliefs can backfire.
Especially when there's that much pressure.
Exactly. Webster warns against that.
Why?
It rarely changes anyone's mind,
Right.
and it often just damages relationships.
So what should they have done instead?
Well, the teacher in the story did something really smart.
What did she do?
She shifted the focus to deeper shared values.
Like what?
Things like quality education and equal opportunities for all kids.
That's brilliant.
It is, right, because instead of trying to dismantle those opposing beliefs,
Yeah.
she found a common ground to build upon.
So it's all about finding that bridge.
Exactly.
Now, let's talk about something we can all relate to.
What's that?
Change that feels like a constant uphill battle.
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling.
It's like trying to cut out sugar cold turkey.
Oof.
The pain is immediate,
Ugh, I can feel it.
but the benefit,
It feels so far off.
exactly. And most people just give up.
They do. And Webster compares that to change in general.
Okay,
If it feels like you're constantly struggling or like your identity is under attack,
right.
it's just not going to last.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
She also talks about this thing called the effort to outcome ratio,
Yes, love that concept.
which basically means that even small changes,
And feel insurmountable.
if the effort seems to outweigh the benefit.
Too much work, not enough reward.
Exactly. So how do we fix that?
We need to reduce the pain of change
Okay,
by breaking it down into smaller...
more manageable steps.
Yeah.
I like that. And we have to consider the effort from their perspective.
Always.
This next principle might sound a little strange at first.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
When two truths fight, only one wins.
Mm-hmm.
Webster actually shares a personal story about this,
What is it?
where she had to choose between a beautifully styled bed
Okay.
and a consistently made one.
I see the dilemma.
And guess which one won?
The consistently made one.
You got it. Practicality wins.
Every time. It seems like.
Every time.
Why is that?
That's the power of cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance.
When two truths are clashing in our minds,
Right.
our brain will choose one to resolve that discomfort.
We don't like that feeling of dissonance.
We do not. But the interesting thing is that dissonance isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Okay.
It can actually be a catalyst for change.
Oh, how so?
It forces us to evaluate what really matters.
So it's about framing your argument in a way
Uh-huh.
that creates the right kind of dissonance.
The kind that leads them to choose what you're advocating for.
That's the goal.
This is fascinating.
It is.
But what about when you're super passionate about an idea?
Okay.
You pour your heart and soul into it,
I've been there.
and you're met with complete indifference.
Oh, that's rough.
It's so frustrating.
It is. And Webster has some wisdom for that, too.
What's that?
She says you can't force someone to care about something they don't.
I guess that makes sense.
It does. The key is aligning your change with an outcome they already desire.
So if they value convenience over innovation,
Exactly.
you've got to show them how your innovation will make their lives easier.
You got it. Meet them where they are.
So it's about respecting their autonomy
Absolutely.
and meeting them where they are.
Yes.
And sometimes...
You gotta walk away.
I like that. Speaking of meeting people where they are, Webster uses these really catchy phrases throughout the book.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Things like 1,000 songs in your pocket
Yes.
or jaws in space.
What do they all have in common?
They all connect something new and unfamiliar
Great.
to something that people already know.
Makes it easier to understand.
It does. It creates a sense of familiarity.
That's the known new contract in action.
No new contract.
It's this writing technique
Oh.
that seamlessly blends familiar information with the new stuff.
So it's all about building those bridges of belief.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Making the change feel natural and less intimidating.
So instead of feeling threatened by the new,
They're intrigued by it.
they're drawn to it.
Exactly. So let's take those principles and see how they play out in real life situations.
Okay, love that.
Remember that idea about every decision has a story?
Mm-mm.
Well, think about the stories people tell themselves about their own abilities.
Okay.
No one likes to feel inadequate.
Especially at work.
Exactly.
Right.
Especially at work. So if you imply that someone's skills are outdated,
Or that they're not tech savvy.
they're going to get defensive.
Right, they're going to shut down.
And they're going to be way less receptive to new ideas.
Makes sense. Webster really emphasizes the importance of affirming people's strengths.
She does. Even when you're pushing for a big change.
I like that. So let's say you're leading a digital transformation
Okay.
and your team is resisting the new technology
It happens all the time.
because they're afraid their current skills will become obsolete.
Right. It's scary.
Like if my skills are no longer relevant, does that mean I'm no longer relevant?
It's a threat to their identity.
It is.
Creates a lot of anxiety.
So how do we address that?
Instead of just focusing on the technical aspects of the digital transformation,
Okay.
you emphasize how their current knowledge can be applied to this new environment.
Ah, I see. So their experience managing complex projects
Exactly.
or their
Okay.
deep understanding of customer needs,
Those are still valuable
they become even more valuable.
in this new digital landscape.
You're showing them that they have a place in this new world.
Exactly. It's an evolution, not a revolution.
It's about empowering them to embrace the change.
Not fear it.
Now, this principle of pain as the enemy of long-term change, that applies to more than just emotional discomfort.
It does. It also encompasses the perceived effort of implementation.
Right. So if a change feels too burdensome or disruptive,
People are just going to give up.
they're not going to stick with it.
Oh.
We've seen this with new productivity systems
Oh, yeah.
or organizational restructuring.
All the time.
There's this initial excitement,
Right.
but then people realize how much effort is required to maintain the new system.
And they revert back to their old ways.
It's like expecting them to climb a sheer cliff.
Instead of giving them a staircase
You need to make the journey accessible.
and less intimidating.
You need to break it down into smaller steps.
Absolutely. So they experience those early wins.
Those little victories that keep them motivated.
Build their confidence.
Now, this next principle might seem counterintuitive.
Okay, I'm listening.
When two truths fight, only one wins.
Mm,
Webster argues that cognitive dissonance,
that uncomfortable feeling
when our beliefs are challenged,
can actually be a driving force for change.
it creates tension
Right.
that forces us to reevaluate our priorities.
And ultimately choose the path that aligns with the desired outcome.
So it's like that aha moment when you realize
Right.
that your current beliefs or actions are no longer serving you.
And that spark of discomfort,
It ignites a desire for something better.
it does. But the question is,
What?
how do we ensure that dissonance leads to a positive resolution?
That's a good question.
Framing is key.
Framing.
So let's say you're encouraging a team to be more collaborative.
Okay.
You could highlight how their current individualistic approach
While it may have worked in the past,
might be hindering their progress in today's rapidly changing market.
you're presenting a compelling case
Right.
that challenges their existing beliefs.
But in a way that doesn't feel like an attack.
It's about planting a seed of doubt
Exactly.
that can blossom into a desire for something new.
That's the goal.
Now, this next principle is a tough one for passionate leaders.
What is it?
You can't want it more than they do.
Oh, yeah. That's a hard one.
It's so true, though,
It is. You can't force someone to care about something.
if they just don't.
You can't. The key is aligning your change. An outcome that they genuinely desire.
So if they value convenience over innovation,
You've got to demonstrate how your innovation will make their lives easier.
you've got to speak their language.
Exactly.
It's about respecting their autonomy
yes.
and realizing that sometimes the best approach,
is to walk away.
speaking of meeting people where they are,
Okay.
those catchy phrases that Webster uses,
Yeah.
1,000 songs in your pocket,
Yes.
or Jaws in space,
Why do those work so well?
they illustrate the known new contract,
The known new contract.
which blends the familiar with the unfamiliar.
To make the change feel more palatable
Just like building a bridge
from what they already know.
to what you're trying to introduce.
Eh.
It's really interesting to think about how these communication strategies, they're not just for big organizational changes or societal movements.
Right.
They can be applied to our everyday conversations, too.
Absolutely.
Whether you're trying to convince a friend to try a new restaurant,
Or get your family to go on vacation with you.
it's all about understanding how people make decisions.
And using that knowledge to communicate more effectively.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to wrap up our deep dive today,
Okay.
let's distill the essence of Say What They Can't Unhear
All right.
into 10 key takeaways.
I like it. Let's do it.
Number 1.
Change is a reaction, not just an action.
Right. Remember Semmelweis and Nightingale?
How they both advocated for hand washing
But with completely different approaches.
and completely different outcomes.
So the way you present your message is just as important as the message itself.
Absolutely.
Number 2,
Every decision has a story behind it.
like those impulse purchases at IKEA,
There's always a reason behind our choices.
even if we're not fully aware of it,
So to persuade someone, your argument needs to be more compelling.
than the story they're already telling themselves.
Exactly.
Number 3,
Principles shape patterns,
our deeply held beliefs act as filters.
influencing how we see the world.
So just like trying to pitch carbon capture technology to someone who doesn't believe in climate change,
You need to align your message with your audience's core principles,
always you're speaking different languages.
and you won't get anywhere.
Number 4,
Identity is a powerful influencer.
we all want to be seen as smart, capable, and good.
It drives so many of our decisions.
So when you frame your argument,
Focus on enhancing their existing strengths,
make them feel good about the change.
not threatened by it.
Number 5.
Don't attack deeply held beliefs head on.
It's like trying to win a battle by burning down the bridge.
Instead, find common ground.
Build upon shared values.
Create a path towards the change you want to see.
Number 6.
Minimize the pain associated with change.
Break it down into smaller steps.
Make it feel manageable.
And always consider the effort from your audience's perspective.
Remember, even small changes can feel overwhelming.
If the effort seems to outweigh the benefit.
Exactly.
Number 7.
Cognitive dissonance can be a catalyst for growth.
It's that uncomfortable feeling we get.
When our beliefs are challenged.
But it can actually motivate us to change.
So frame your message in a way
That creates the right kind of dissonance.
leading them to choose your desired outcome.
Number 8.
You can't want it more than they do.
You can't force someone to care about something they don't.
Respect their autonomy.
And sometimes the best thing you can do.
Is walk away.
Number 9.
Build bridges of belief by connecting the new to the familiar.
Make the change feel natural and exciting.
Not daunting and foreign.
Use relatable examples.
And clear connections to existing knowledge.
And finally, number 10.
Change is a journey, not a destination.
There will be setbacks.
And challenges along the way.
But embrace those moments.
As opportunities for growth.
Cultivate a mindset of continuous learning and adaptation.
That's how we become the best versions of ourselves.
And create a world that reflects our highest aspirations.
Well said.
So there you have it.
10 powerful takeaways from Say What They Can't Unhear
To help you communicate more effectively,
and create lasting change.
we encourage you to revisit these principles
Apply them thoughtfully and empathetically.
and watch as the transformative power of communication unfolds in your life.
It's truly amazing what the right words can do.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Say What They Can't Unhear.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Until next time, keep those conversations flowing.
And remember the power to create a better world.
Starts with the words we choose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.